Iran has never actually closed off the Strait of Hormuz before, but they've come close. Really close. Back in 2011 and 2012, things got seriously tense. Iran was furious over new US and EU sanctions targeting its oil exports, and they didn't just complain about it. Iranian leaders threatened to block the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow but critical waterway that handles about 20% of the world's oil. And they weren't just bluffing. Iran launched large-scale naval drills right in the strait and warned that if they couldn't sell oil, no one else would either. The world took notice. Oil prices jumped about 4%, climbing to around $103 a barrel, and Western militaries quickly ramped up their presence in the region. That was one of the most dramatic near-shutdowns we've seen, one that rattled markets and reminded everyone just how fragile the global oil supply chain really is. Now in 2025, with Iran making fresh threats and military tensions escalating again, the question is back on the table. Could they actually go through with it this time? And what happens if they do? Could anyone stop them? Let's unpack it. The Strait of Hormuz, this narrow stretch of water, just 21 miles wide at its skinniest point, is basically the world's oil superhighway. Around 20 million barrels of oil and a hefty chunk of liquefied gas pass through it every single day, more than a fifth of the entire planet's oil supply. Iran's threatened to block it before, plenty of times actually, but never followed through. Now though, that threat's starting to feel a little too real for a lot of people. Here's the deal. The strait sits between Iran and Oman, connecting the Persian Gulf with the Arabian Sea. It is tiny, but massively important. The shipping lanes through it are only 3 kilometers wide in each direction. Iran controls the northern side and could easily mess with global trade by blocking ships, attacking tankers, or literally just flexing any sort of military muscle in the area. And this isn't all just theoretical, by the way. Back in 2019, 2 ships were attacked in the strait, one flying a Marshall Islands flag, the other from Panama. A month before that, 4 more tankers were hit. The US blamed Iran for it all, and Iran, of course, denied everything. If Iran actually closes the strait, the impact would be massive. Global oil prices would spike overnight, and countries like Iraq, who rely almost entirely on that route to export their oil, would be in some serious trouble. Others might have backup plans, but not many. But the bottom line is, if the Strait of Hormuz goes offline, the world feels it. Fast. So how would they do it? If Iran tried to block the strait, it'd likely start by mining the narrow shipping lanes. Again, they're just 3 kilometers wide. And they've got the gear for it as well, including Chinese-made EM-52 mines that fire rockets from the seabed when they detect a ship. But laying mines isn't easy. Iran would need to move fast, using submarines, patrol boats, maybe even drones, all while risking instant retaliation from Israel or the US. And when it's time to clear the mines, that's a whole other mess. It's slow, it's dangerous, and it's ideally done without anyone shooting at you. Even the US Navy got hit by mines in the Gulf War, so if this goes down, do expect chaos. And if they actually did close down the strait, it wouldn't just cause chaos, it'd spike oil prices, rattle the global economy, and hit Trump right where it hurts: inflation at home. But here's the thing, it could also be a major act of economic self-sabotage. Iran's oil flows through the same strait, block it, and they cut off their own lifeline, and risk dragging skeptical Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE into conflict to protect their own exports. And the tension is already showing. Some supertankers have reportedly turned back, and marine insurance costs have doubled in just days. One expert says insurers now only guarantee quotes for 24 hours because things are just changing that fast. Oil prices are all over the place already. Brent crude briefly jumped to $81.40 a barrel after US strikes on Iran, then it plunged back to around $71. Trump, not exactly subtle, posted on Truth Social, "Everyone, keep oil prices down. I'm watching." It's like he doesn't know how a single thing works. Am I right? Like, come on, man. But even if prices cool short term, analysts warn this could escalate fast. If Iran blocks the strait, oil could hit $120 a barrel. That's bad news for everybody, especially Asia and Europe, who rely heavily on oil and gas coming through the strait. The US would feel it too, maybe not as directly. Only about 7% of US oil inputs pass through the strait, but the ripple effects on global supply chains, shipping costs, and food prices could be huge. So if they shut the strait, it won't just hurt their enemies, it'll light a match under the entire global economy and possibly burn down its own house in the process. So if they actually go through with it, the fallout would be global, so who could stop them? The US? Absolutely. The US has a major military presence in the region and would almost certainly kick off. Blocking the strait, that could spark a massive US response, not just to protect global oil flow, but also to stop Iran from flexing too hard, you know? Secretary of State Marco Rubio even called it economic suicide and warned that any closure would seriously backfire. But all that considered, the US have already reached out to an unlikely country to help. What about China? Here's where it gets really complicated. China is Iran's biggest oil customer, buying nearly 90% of its exports, and it depends heavily on oil that flows through the strait. So Marco Rubio has even called on Beijing to pick up the phone and tell Iran to back up and chill out. But will they? Probably not. I mean, it might have been an easier conversation if the US hadn't waged economic war with China and JD Vance hadn't called them peasants, and also if Marco Rubio wasn't literally banned from China. So, if Iran shuts it down, it would kind of be a lose-lose move, hurting itself, its neighbors, and the global economy. But stopping them? That's likely up to a mix of US firepower, global pressure, and back-channel diplomacy from China, maybe? I mean, that's if they decide it's worth it. If you like this video, make sure you check out one I did on ceasefires in general, and if they really work. We look back through history at a bunch of different ceasefires. Hot topic today. Bye!